But we have, for the promotion of the field of this particular science, we have started the webinar series. And particularly on second and fourth Saturday, we have decided to have the webinar every month. So this today is the second webinar, and on first webinar was on 26th June, and Dr. A. Shankar Narayan, President of the Vivo Biotechnology, had presented on the animal models. Today, in our second webinar, we have with us on online so many dignitaries are there, namely Dr. Vishnu Sharma, Vice Chancellor of the Rajwas, Bikaner, Dr. N.S. Kilava, Vice Chancellor of the Kamdenu University, Gujarat, Dr. R.C. Agrawal, DDG Education, ICR, Dr. A.K. Tyagi, Assistant Director General of ICR, Professor Dr. Colonel A.K. Gehlot, former Vice Chancellor of Rajwas, Professor Mrs. Sanjita Sharma, Dean, PGI, PGIVER, Dr. Raj Shekhar, SRM University, Dr. A. Kumaresan from NDRI Bangalore, Mr. Arun Patil, Chairman of the Indian Dairy Association, Mumbai, Dr. Anil Maheshwari, Vice President of Dairy Business, NDRI IRMA, Dr. Dirshing from the NDRI, Dr. P.K. Singh, Senior Scientist at NDR, Dr. Yashwant R, Cooperative Milk Federation, faculty of Department of Pharmacology from all over the country in the veterinary colleges, participants of the dairy industries, PG students and PhD students of the discipline, other members also, and my colleagues, particularly EC members of the ISVPT and team ISVPT for the webinar, Dr. S.K. Bhavsar, Dr. M. Srinivasan, Dr. Ratnadeep, Dr. Sundar Singh, etc. So, today's speaker is Dr. A.K. Srivastava sir, and he will be delivering the talk on the pharmacological aspects of the A1, A2. We are all aware that this A1, A2 milk, there is a lot of debates are going on. What is the importance of that one? Mainly, there is a difference at the protein level, particularly A1, A2. A2 milk is better than A1. There is a question. Is indigenous cow milk is either A1 or A2? What are the pharmacological properties? Myth and facts will be delivered or explained by today's speaker, Dr. A.K. Srivastava. Now, we all of us are knowing him very well, but even though as a formality, we have to introduce him to the younger generation, those maybe not knowing or not seen him, that who is Dr. A.K. Srivastava. A dignitary is well known. Professor A.K. Srivastava, a distinguished pharmacologist, we are happy. He is a member of Agriculture Scientist Recruitment Board, Animal Sciences. Before joining ASRB, DARE, Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare, Government of India, Professor Srivastava was Director and Vice Chancellor of ICR National Dairy Research Institute, Karnal, Dean Faculty of Veterinary Science and Animal Husbandry, and Director Resident Instructions and Dean PGS at Sher Kashmir University of Agriculture Sciences and Technology, Jammu, and Head of the Department, Head of Department and Control of Examination at Punjab Agriculture University, Ludhiana. He is a graduate and postgraduate of Veterinary Science and Animal Husbandry from the Veterinary College, Mathura. He obtained PhD from Ludhiana, PU Ludhiana, and postdoctorate from Institute of Toxicology, Munchen, Germany. He has guided 13 MVSc as well as 7 PhD scholars. He has published more than 250 research papers and reviews in journals and international repute, and he has written 7 texts and reference books, 12 status papers, and 8 policy papers, and edited 8 books. Professor Dr. Srivastava is honored with degree of Doctor of Science, DSc Honoris Causa from Veterinary University, Mathura, as well as Veterinary University, Jabalpur. Presently, Professor Srivastava is Vice President of National Academy of Agriculture Sciences, NAS, and Patron of Indian Dairy Association. He is President of National Academy of Dairy Science. He is President Association of Mastitis and President of Probiotic Association of India. Earlier, Professor Srivastava was Secretary NAS and also the president of Indian Society of Veterinary Pharmacology and Toxicology, this ISCPT. He was also chairman Indian Dairy Association, New Zealand chairman FAD 19, Dairy Products and Equipments, Bureau of and Indian Standards Committee, BIS, Government of India. Dr. Srivastava was founder authority member of Food Safety and Standard Authority of India, FSSAI, and member of National Committee of International Dairy Federation. Professor Srivastava is distinguished member of National Academy of Science, fellow of National Academy of Agriculture Sciences, fellow of National Academy of Dairy Science, and fellow of National Academy of Veterinary Science. He is also fellow of National Academy of Biological Sciences, fellow of Punjab Academy of Sciences, and fellow of Uttar Pradesh Academy of Agricultural Sciences. He is also a fellow of 10 scientific societies, including ISVPT. He is also a member of Board of Governing Council of Agriculture Skill Council of India, Ministry of Skill Development. He is a member governing board of National Institute of Animal Biotechnology, DBT, Government of India, member advisory committee of Indian Institute of Packaging, Ministry of Commerce and Industries, Government of India, chairman R&D committee of Ministry of Food Processing Industries, Government of India. He is member board of trustee, member of Trust for Advancement of Agriculture Sciences in New Delhi. Earlier, Professor Srivastava was Secretary, Vice President, and President of Indian Agriculture University Vice Chancellors Association, member Deputy Task Force on Biotechnological Approaches for Food and Nutritional Security, and also member Task Force on Animal Biotechnology. He has been decorated with the numerous prestigious awards and honors, including ICAR Jawaharlal Nehru Award, International NOCH Award, National LRC Awards in 87, 88, and 99, 2000, ASAD Gold Medal, German Academy Exchange Award, Gold Medal of Indian Science Congress Association, Dr. B.D. Garg Outstanding Pharmacologist Award, 2018, National Education Award 2016, and many more. He has been conferred the Lifetime Achievement Award by Indian Society for Study of Reproduction and Fertility, Society for Community Mobilization and Sustainable Development, Indian Society of Buffalo Development, and CLFMA India. He has also received Chalappa Memorial Oration Award, Mansi Bhai Memorial Oration Award, Dr. Sundarsan Memorial Award, Dr. M. Shabir Oration Award, Professor S. C. Mandal Memorial Oration Award, Dr. Rao Memorial Oration Award, and Professor S. Karnian Memorial Award 2019 by National Academy of Biological Science. He was chairman of subgroup of Working Group of Planning Commission on Animal Husbandry and Dairying for preparation of 12th five-year plan, and also chairman of the subgroup of midterm evaluation of 11th five-year plan. He led GST India delegation to New Zealand for identification of collaborative research on food and agriculture between India and New Zealand. He was member of Indian delegation to Kansas, USA, led by Secretary there, Ghent, Belgium, Dubai, ILRI, Ethiopia, ILRI, Pakistan, APARI, Sri Lanka, SARC, Hong Kong, and New Zealand Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, Bangkok, FAO, Michigan State University, and many more countries. So many feathers he has in his cap. We know that peacock sheds feathers, but this fellow, Dr. A.K. Srivastava, adds 2 to 3 feathers in his cap every year. We are honored to have. In nutshell, I will say that he is a human being to be kept as a teacher, as a mentor, as an administrator, as a guide, and as a friend. Sir, I welcome Dr. A.K. Srivastava, a dignitary of unparalleled achievement, to deliver his own society's webinar 2 on pharmacological aspects of the A1 and A2 milk myth and facts. Dr. A.K. Srivastava, sir, please.
Sir, you can start.
Srivastava, sir.
Yeah, you can share the presentation slides, sir.
Just give me 1 minute.
Yes, sir.
Can you see the slides?
Yes, sir. We can see.
Okay, you can hear me also.
Yes, sir. Clear.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Thakur, for giving good words, for speaking good words for me, but it is not new. You always speak good words for me. Thank you very much. Well, friends, all the participants, all the dignitaries of the ISBP team, heartiest welcome to each and everyone in this webinar. In addition to the name which Dr. Thakur took for welcoming, I also welcome Dr. A.K. Singh, Secretary NAS, and my senior colleague. He is former Vice Chancellor of Agriculture University, Gwalior. So I extend my heartiest welcome to each and everyone who are participating in this webinar. My thanks to ISBPT, Dr. Thakur, Dr. Bhavsar, and his team for giving me this opportunity. Friends, this is the topic, pharmacological potential of A1 and A2 milk, myths and facts. It is around 11:45. I will take around 50 to 60 minutes to explain this thing. I have tried my level best to make a story type of presentation so that it's clear to everyone that what are the A1 milk, what are the A2 milk, what is the myths, what is the facts, and in the last I will conclude that in what way we should proceed as far as A1, A2 milk is concerned. Well, friends, we see that what type of animals this world is having. There are about 800 species, 800 breeds of the cattle worldwide which are recognized, but they are mainly grouped into two, Bos indicus and Bos taurus and Bos indicus. Bos indicus that we also call as Zebu cattle, and these cattle are in India, North Africa, and part of the South America, and these animals are well adapted to hot climate. If we talk about the Bos taurus that we call also taurine cattle, they are typical cattle of Europe, US, Northeastern Asia, and part of Africa. Our general perception about A1, A2 milk is that Bos indicus is A2 milk and Bos taurus is A1 milk. Second general perception is that A2 milk is good for health and A1 milk is bad for health. So we are going with these two perceptions that indigenous animals are having A2 milk and they are good for health, and our Bos taurus or exotic breeds are having A1 milk and this is bad for health. With these two perceptions, I will proceed further that what is the status of these two animals and milk and pharmacological potential of A1 and A2. Broadly, we see the word that where Bos indicus and where Bos taurus are, then Bos indicus you can see this pink line that this is the area of Bos taurus, rest are Bos indicus, rest are Bos taurus. Especially in Africa and Asia and some part of the Europe, we see that what breeds we are having. Then you can see the area where there is no cattle. You can see that area where there is only taurine. You can see the Zebu, the black one. The Zebu means Indian hummed cattle, that is the Zebu. And then the cross one, that is the crossbred of Zebu and taurine. And then some area that you will get a special breeds, that is the Bos. So this is the area where Bos indicus and Bos taurus breeds are existing. Coming to the India, friends, we know that India is harboring largest livestock population, 535.78 million. And if we see the three livestock census of India in 2019, October 16, the last census came out, and it is about 192.5 million cattle, which was 190.9 million in last, and before that it was 199 million. Buffalo 109.9 million recent, and then goats 148.9 million and sheep 74.3 million. So largest livestock population at present we are having in the world, with about 193 million of the cattle, 110 million of the buffalo, 149 million of the goats, and 74 million of the sheep. If we see that which type of animal we are having, categorization of the Indian cattle population as per breed survey of Government of India, which was last held in 2013. The total indigenous breed we are having around 9.4%, and we are having 50 recognized Indian cattle breeds. So total cattle breeds 9.4%, nondescript large 59.3%. Nondescript means we have not categorized as a breed. Crossbred animal we are having 20.1%, and total exotic, either it is Jersey or Holstein Friesian, it is 0.7, and graded 10.5% means the nondescript, which we have upgraded with our indigenous breed. And we know that the cattle population of India is the second largest in the world, that is the 15%, and of the total livestock of India, it is 36.4%, and 50 recognized registered breed of cattle we are having. But if we see for the last 3 decades, how this cross-breeding program is going on, because this is the base for all discussion of A1, A2 milk. In 1992, only 7% cattle were crossbred, which increased to 26.5% in 2019. Our indigenous breeds, which we have 50 recognized breed, it was 93% in 1992, but it has decreased to 73.5%. So on one hand, we are having large population of nondescript indigenous cattle. On the other hand, the crossbreeding program is increasing, and crossbred animals are also increasing year by year, and we are having today 26.5% of the crossbred. So this is the population. 26.5% crossbred is always seen with the eye that they are secreting A1 milk, and it is bad for the health. If we see that which type of crossbred we are having, which type of exotic animal we are having crossbred of 2 exotic breeds. One is Jersey and another is Holstein Friesian. Jersey 57.77% among total crossbred, and among total crossbred Holstein Friesian 38.91. However, 1.62 we are having pure Holstein Friesian, and 1.7% we are having pure Jersey. So this is the status of our pure exotic germplasm and crossbred germplasm with Holstein Friesian or with Jersey. Buffalo population, if we see, about 20.4% of the total livestock population of the country as per 2019 data. We are having 17 recognized registered Indian breeds, and India is having the maximum population of the buffalo in the world, that is more than 50%. Total breeds of buffalo, they account only 17%, 43% population is the non-descript population, and graded with indigenous breeds we are having about 40% population. That we have non-descript buffalo population we have improved with the help of 15 indigenous recognized breed of the cattle. If we see the milk production, India is the largest producer of the milk. In 2018 and 19, 188 million ton of the milk was produced by India, which is at number 1, and that accounts around 20.2% of the total world milk. The recommended per capita availability of the milk in India as per MCI is 280 gram per person per day, but in India the availability of per capita milk is 394 gram per person per day. So we are much higher than the recommendation of Medical Council of the India. In the last decade, the growth rate of the dairy sector was 6%, and the average per capita milk availability of the world is only 229 gram per person per day. So India is much ahead as far as per capita milk availability is concerned, either as compared to the world average or as compared to the recommendation of the Medical Council of the India. Now starts that from where these milk come. if we are producing 188 million ton of the milk, out of that 48.9% of the milk is coming from buffalo. Non-descript cattle that account 69% of the total population, they are contributing 10.8%. Indigenous cattle, 50 breeds of Indian cattle, they are contributing 9.8%. Crossbred are contributing 26.3%, and 1% is being contributed by total exotic cattle and 3.2% by goats. Here I would like to say that whole discussion, whole problem with this A1, A2 milk is with this crossbred and exotic cattle that accounts around 27.3%, combining crossbred 26.3 and 1% of the exotic cattle. So 27.3% is coming from crossbred, and this is perceived, it is our perception that the crossbred milk is having A1 milk, which is seen as a bad milk or having lot of bad ill effect on the health, and A2 milk, which is produced by our buffalo, cattle of Indian nature, goats, they are of A2 milk, which is good. For a minute, just let us forget about the A1, A2 story. If we don't see A1, A2, even then friends, milk is full of nutrition and full of nutraceuticals. It is having excellent protein, excellent fat, which we call as a good fat. Milk is the best source for calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, iodine, selenium, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin 12, vitamin K, riboflavin, biotin, pantothenic acids, all water soluble, fat soluble, vitamins, calcium, they are present in the milk. Dr. Srinivasan, some sound is coming, some voice is coming, kindly see it. And more important, in milk, calcium, phosphorus and vitamin D are exactly in the same ratio, which require 100% bioavailability of the calcium. And we know that the calcium is not only important for improving the bone health and teeth health, but it is also important for maintaining the blood pressure. It is also important for colon health because it is acting as a colonic anticarcinogenic. The calcium and vitamin D is also important to burn the extra calorie and to maintain the body weight. Milk has been reported very good food for lowering the blood pressure, for maintaining the blood pressure. It is having carotenoids, and we know that carotenoids are as an antioxidant and it improves the vision. More important, milk is having short chain fatty acid, butyric acid, which in the multiplication of the neuron. This is the only food which has butyric acid, and it helps in the development of the brain of the children. It also regulates the cell growth and also acts as anti-tumor. Milk is having lactose, which is not helping only in the brain development, but also acts as a prebiotic. Prebiotic, we know that is a food of probiotic. And probiotic is healthy bacteria which controls the pathogens in our GIT. Milk is good source of conjugated linoleic acid and omega-3 fatty acids, and this omega-3 fatty acid is in high content if animal is grass-fed. Milk and whey protein, minor component and bioactive compounds are having a lot of therapeutic effects. Pharmacology people, you know that a lot of bioactive peptides have been isolated from the milk, which is having pharmacological effects and health attributes. So if we keep A1, A2 story on one side, then all the milk, either it is A1 or A2, it is full of nutrition, it is full of therapeutic molecules. Now coming to the actual story of the A1 and A2. If we see that composition of the milk is having water, which accounts about 84 to 87%, solid accounts 13 to 16%, then protein, fat, lactose and ash. Now coming to the protein, it is having two types of protein. There are two types of protein in the milk, whey protein and casein. And now casein is having mainly three components: alpha casein, beta casein and kappa casein. Now beta casein is having two type of casein, that is two type of protein, that is the A1 and A2. I will come in detail that what is this A1 and A2, but here we have to understand that A1 and A2 is beta casein. So in further discussion, if I talk A1 beta A1 or A1 beta or beta casein A1 or A2 animal or A1 milk or A2 milk, it is all same. Means let us understand that A1 and A2 are two fraction of beta casein protein of the milk. How A1 and A2 is formed, that we can see here. Beta casein, if we see, then it accounts 37% of the total casein protein. Rest 39% is alpha S1 casein, 10% of alpha S2 casein, and 13% of the kappa casein. That is in the cow milk. So 37% beta casein in cow milk and 38% beta casein in buffalo milk. So whole story lies with 37% and 38% of beta casein protein in cow and buffalo. That is having A1 and A2. Now, how this A1 and A2 animal story started in the beginning? How this A1 A2 story started? According to literature, we see more than 12,000 to 15,000 years ago, cattle were domesticated, and at that time, cow were producing only A2 beta casein, not A1 beta casein. So let us accept that when cattle were domesticated, there was only A2 beta casein protein. Then 8,000 years ago, genetic mutation took place in some European countries, especially to Holstein, which resulted the production of A1 beta casein. The mutation of beta casein led not only A1 and A2, but 15 genetic variants. Out of that, A1 and A2 are important and most common. And these 15 genetic variants are A1, A2, A3, B, C, D, E, F, G, H1, H2, I, J, K, L. So these are the variants of mutation of A2 beta casein. And then this mutation was passed from one breed to another breed, because Holstein was used for artificial insemination for genetic improvement in other taurine breeds in European countries. Slowly and slowly, because Holstein was used for the genetic improvement, slowly and slowly beta A1 casein became dominant in the taurine cattle. So this is the history that how A1 milk came in the cattle. It came only 8,000 years back after mutation. So it is not a new. A1 milk, A2 milk is not a new. This mutation took place 8,000 years ago. Now coming to the science that how this mutation leads to variants of beta casein. We know that beta casein is a long protein. It is having around 209 amino acids. A1 and A2 is defined by SNP at amino acid at position 69. So if we see this one, original protein is A1. Original protein is A2. Sorry, original protein is A2 beta casein, and then mutation took place at 67 position. At the place of proline, it came histidine, and then again further mutation of A2 took place, and then A3, H1, H2, and all these varieties, and further mutation of A1 took place, and then B, C, F, G, all these variants came. Let me repeat it again, that original protein is beta A2 casein. Mutation at 67th position of amino acid took place. At the place of proline, which was in A2, now at 67th position it is histidine, and this became A1. Further mutation of A1 and A2 lead to different variants. A1 mutation lead to B, C, F, G variant and A2 mutation lead to production of H1, H2, E, D, I, J, K, L, M. Dr. Srinivasan, I'm facing problem. People are requesting for annotation time and time again.
No, sir, annotation is not allowed.
On my slides, it is coming that allow annotation. So I'm just
No,
declining kindly.
Yes,
Right.
yes. Okay, sir. Yeah.
So this is the concept that how A1 was formed from A2, and further mutation in A1 and A2 lead to different variants of the beta casein proteins. So this is the story that protein chain showing amino acid in A1 and A2 beta casein protein. Now we are concentrating only on A1 and A2. This was the story that how mutation took place. Now what is the difference between A2 beta casein and A1 beta casein? Then this is the only one amino acid at 67th position. In A2 beta casein it is a proline, and A1 beta casein it is the histidine, and that make the difference of two different protein of beta casein A1 and A2. This is the peptides of A1 and A2. We know that proteolytic enzymes may be pepsin, may be trypsin, may be chymotrypsin, may be elastase, leucine aminopeptidase. They cleave the peptide bond of protein and produce different peptides, and these peptides are exhibiting the specificity. So the protein of milk or other foods are producing peptides which are having pharmacological attributes, which are having health attributes. In beta casein A1 variants, you can see that it is a 9 amino acid peptides, and in that we call as BCM7, beta casomorphin 9 in case of A2, and in case of beta casein A1 variants, it is the BCM7. I'm sorry, it is the 9 amino acids BCM9 for A2 and 7 amino acid peptides for BCM7 of beta 1 casein. So A1 milk produces, or A1 protein produces BCM7, and A2 milk produces BCM9. So now further story will be that what BCM7 does and what BCM9 does, what is the scientific proof and what is means denied by the scientist. Okay, first statement in the beginning we talked that our indigenous Zebu cattle was having A2 genes. Our Taurus European cattle were having A1 genes. But now science has proved that A2 gene frequency is not only in Indian cattle. Yes, it is true that Indian humped breed A2 gene frequency is around 98%. It's true. But see, North America and North Europe, A1 frequency in Holstein Friesian is high, but in German Holstein Friesian, A2 frequency is high. That is up to 97%, as good as Indian breeds. In other country, A2 frequency in Holstein Friesian ranges between 35 to 60%. In other breeds of USA, Europe, for example, if you see Guernsey, A2 frequency of cow and breeding bulls is very high, 98%, almost equal to the Indian breeds. In case of Jersey, A2 gene frequency is higher, 60 to 80% globally. Kerry breeds from Ireland and spotted breeds from Hungary has A2 frequency up to 75%. So things in this slide is clear that it is not only Indian humped breed which is having A2 gene or which can produce A2 milk. Other European breeds are also producing A2 milk and they are having A2 genes. In addition to cattle in India, buffalo, goat, sheep, camel, they all are having A2 genes. Hence, milk from these animals are exclusively A2 type. So it is A2 milk. Second point. First point was that not only Indian breeds, other breeds are also having A2 genes. And second point is more important, that distribution of A1 and A2 milk is not only restricted to breed specific, but it is also area specific. Several survey has been made, several studies have been made, and they have shown that A1, A2 frequency is not only breed specific, but also area specific also. Now you can see in different in one breeds in different countries. Leave the USA now. Germany, Denmark, New Zealand, Hungary, then Poland, New Zealand. Again, all these things you see different types of two types of genes, A2 and A1, in different countries in one breed. Similarly, if you see the USA, three different breeds of exotic in nature, they are having different distribution of A1 and A2 milk. What I want to convey in these two slides, friends, that our concept that our Indian breeds are having only A2 milk, not other breeds, it is not correct, because other European breeds are also having dominated with A2 genes. And second, it is area specific, means one breed may be having A1 milk, A1 gene in one area, but A2 gene in another area. This was about the animals and A2 and A1 genes. Now, what the genesis of A1 and A2 milk story, how this story started, A1 and A2 milk, because as I said that mutation took place 8,000 years ago from A2 to A1. Although it was long back story, A1 and A2 variants were known long back, its pharmacological significance was not known. The story started in 1993 when Professor R.B. Elliott from Auckland University, which is in the New Zealand, this was observation that Samoan children, there is island, Samoan children living in mainland, means if Samoan children is coming to the New Zealand mainland, they are more susceptible to type 1 diabetes, approximately 10-fold, than the children living in their own island, that is this Samoa, who had extremely low incidence. So this was the first observation, that children from one island was having low incidence when they are in the mainland. They are having high incidence when they are in the mainland, and they are having low incidence if they are in the island, small island. And then he answered this question in two ways. Relate the consumption of the milk, which was much lower in the small island and higher in the main island. Then also he did some experiment in the mice. So he studied the epidemiology and he did the experiment in the mice. Two observations was obtained. None of the mice fed with A2 beta casein got diabetes, while 47% of those fed with A1 beta casein were diabetic after 250 days. So this was the ignition point of differentiating A1 and A2. It was fed to mice and it was found that mice fed with A2 beta casein, there was no development of diabetes. However, if mice was fed with beta 1 casein, the diabetes developed in 47% animals after 250 days of the feeding. And second observation, that opioid antagonist, that we know that naloxone, when it was fed with beta 1 casein protein, the effect was nullified. So that was the beginning, that beta 1 casein protein may cause diabetes through opioid receptor. Some other correlation with health attributes. Again, Elliott in 1994 reported that consumption of beta 1 casein milk may increase the chance of ISD, that is the ischemic heart disease. They collected all the published data for diabetes incidence in children ranging from 0 to 14 years in 10 developed countries and reported high correlation with diabetes mellitus 1 with beta 1 casein. So this was the epidemiology from 10 different developed nations, that cases of children diabetes was directly correlated with consumption of beta 1 casein protein. Then diabetes mellitus type 1 was found rare in children of Maasai in South Africa, which is a tribe with high consumption of milk, but that milk is from the Zebu cow, which produces A2 milk. So that was coming simultaneously, that okay, there is a tribe in East Africa, they are consuming a lot of milk, but this milk is from Zebu cow, so it is A2 milk, and there is no incidence of diabetes mellitus in these animals, in these children. However, in 10 developed nations, they are consuming A1 milk and they are having high incidence of diabetes mellitus. Now you can see that in 1990, he concluded with all the epidemiology that beta-1 casein in milk could be triggering type 1 diabetes in human in some developed countries. And these are the developed countries. You can see that the beta casein per capita consumption on one side, another side, the new cases of type 1 diabetes per 1 lakhs per annum. Either it is Sweden or Finland or Canada, Norway, UK, New Zealand, Australia, all developed countries, there was epidemiological correlation. Similarly, another study in 1996 concluded that beta-1 casein in milk could be triggering type 1 diabetes in children, and in some countries could be causing relatively high death rate from heart disease. So this diagram shows that there is a direct correlation with beta-1 casein consumption gram per day with death due to coronary heart diseases. So two correlation through epidemiological study with diabetes and death due to heart disease has been obtained by epidemiological study. Later on, friends, this type 1 A1 milk protein, A1 beta casein protein was associated with some other ill effect also. You can see schizophrenia, high blood pressure, autism, high cholesterol, sudden infant death syndrome. All these diseases has been correlated with type 1 milk. So this was the one part of the story, that type A1 beta casein milk consumption was correlated with diseases mainly of diabetes and death due to ischemic heart and other diseases based on epidemiology as well as some experimental study in animals. The mechanism which has been suggested like this pharmacological mechanism, you are more interested in this one. When we consume the milk, then it is digested in gastrointestinal tract, and then in GIT either it will be a beta-1 casein or beta-2 casein depending upon the milk which we are consuming. If it is a beta-2 casein on the left side, then it is metabolized and it forms BCM9 or beta-casomorphin 9, and till date no adverse effect of beta-casomorphin 9 has been reported. However, BCM7, which is 7 amino acid peptides, after digestion it is absorbed, it reaches in circulation, it crosses blood-brain barrier, and it affects the health by causing diseases like autism, Alzheimer's, diabetes, heart disease, all these things through opioid receptor. This is the postulation. This they projected, this they predicted that this might be the mode of action. And we know that opioid receptor are highest, where it is highest, maybe hypothalamus, cerebral cortex, and spleen. It is moderate and it is lowest some part, and some where it is not available. For example, stomach, heart, and endothelium, this opioid receptors are not present. This is the postulated mode of action of BCM7, which is formed from A1 beta casein protein, which crosses blood-brain barrier, reaches to the brain, occupy the opioid receptor. It is agonist of opioid receptor and causes all these diseases. Some experimental evidence were also shown while justifying the A1 pharmacological action, because we know that BCM needs to be released after consumption. When we are consuming the milk, then BCM needs to be released. So experimental study has shown that 4 milligram of BCM was released 2 hours after digestion of 30 gram of the casein, and which is sufficient for pharmacological effects. So this was the one. Second, BCM needs to be cross the gut epithelium and go into circulation for pharmacological function. So the experiment was conducted in vitro and has been demonstrated that BCM7, because it is only 7 amino acid peptides, it is a smaller size, so they cross the intestinal epithelia, while BCM9 does not cross, or if it cross poorly, because it is a 9 amino acid peptides. And it was established that BCM are transferred through intercellular space across the intestinal epithelia. Process is faster in infants because of immature gut lining. Lastly, through experiment they show that BCM7 has more affinity to mu opioid receptor, because this was the mu opioid receptor where BCM7 combines. BCM7 has more affinity to mu opioid receptor as compared to BCM9. So these are the few experiments which was shown in favor of A1 mechanism of action. Now, when it was highlighted that A1 is having all bad effects and all these things, then many reports came which denied the adverse effect of A1 type of the milk. And these three main reports I will explain. There are a lot of paper, lot of publication, but these three main reports I will explain in detail. In 2004, New Zealand Food Safety Authority reviewed the safety of A1 and A2 milk and declared that both A1 and A2 milk are safe other than consumers allergic to lactose. If someone is allergic to lactose, so it is not good. And this allergic to lactose will be present in both type of milk, either it is A1 and A2 milk. So they concluded that both A1 and A2 milk are good. In 2005, there was a big review paper by Truswell. Detail is here given. Human Nutrition. He is professor in Human Nutrition Division, University of Sydney in Australia. He published the paper of A2 milk cases, a critical review, European Journal of Clinical Nutrition, that I will explain later. And third report, the detailed scientific report of European Food Safety Authority on the review of the potential health impact of beta-casomorphin and related peptides. So first, all ill effect of A1 milk protein came, and then there are several reports which denied the ill effects of beta-1 casein protein. Truswell, first report I said, the Truswell 2005. Kindly, I will go step by step. Correlation of diabetes mellitus 1 incidence and estimated national average A1 beta casein consumption is only suggestive evidence. Release of BCM7 has not yet been demonstrated in human. This was in vitro earlier. What I said, that was the in vitro study. Coronary heart disease mortality has declined considerably in countries like USA, Australia, Switzerland without reduction in milk and protein consumption. The available human epidemiological data shows no increase in coronary heart disease in people who drink more milk. So it is all denying the ill effect of the A1. No different mechanism of action has been presented for A1 and A2 beta casein on the pathogenesis of CSD. So if A1 is bad, A2 is good, then they should be having different mechanism of action. The evidence relating autism and schizophrenia to A1 or A2 beta casein in milk is more speculative, and the evidence is more unsubstantial than that of diabetes mellitus and CSD. So they just just throw the paper that no, A1 is as good as A2 because all these things has not been cleared. And they concluded that there is no convincing or not even probable evidence that the A1 beta casein of cow milk has any pharmacological action or effect in human beings. So this was the very elaborate, exhaustive review of Truswell, which denied the adverse effect of beta A1 protein or A1 milk. Now, in 2 slides, I will show that what European Food Safety Authority reports on the pharmacological potential of beta-casomorphin. Beta-casomorphin, including beta-casomorphin 7, may act as opioid receptor agonist, probably by a mu-type opioid receptor. They established that, okay, they are opioid agonist and they are occupying the mu opioid receptor. Second point, they says that in comparison to any endogenous opioids or any medicinal opioids, bovine BCM7 does not seem to be more potent as opioid ligand. So what endogenous opioids are, they are more potent than BCM7 or BCM9. Third point, opioid effects were only observed in vivo in animal studies when it was administered either by intraperitoneal or by intracerebroventricular administration, when we are directly administering by intracerebroventricular or by intraperitoneal. Little is known on mechanism of transfer of intact peptides longer than 3 amino acids across the intestinal barrier. However, if this transport occurs, then the extent is very low through passive diffusion. Here, means because we have word on the amino acid peptides. Yes, if it is a small amino peptides, bioactive peptides, 3, 2, then it is very nicely absorbed. But if it is a larger amino peptides, 7, 8, it is absorbed but slowly. That is absolutely correct. Presence of beta-casomorphin molecule in blood after intake of milk or casein has not been established in bio studies. So they are all denying the adverse effects. In principle, transport of food-derived peptides and proteins across human intestinal mucosa is possible. It is accepted that it is crossing the intestinal mucosa. However, quantitative data is lacking that how much these peptides are entering into circulation after absorption from intestinal mucosa. Continuing this denial report by European Food Safety Authority, no clear evidence to link beta-casomorphin intake and sudden infant death syndrome. No scientific support to link beta-casein A1 and autism in subject, not even with increased intestinal permeability. No strong evidence to link between consumption of beta-casein A1 and increased risk of CBD in humans. Studies linking intake of beta-casomorphin 7 with cardiovascular disease mortality have not considered several confounding factors, and recent extensive studies led to the opposite conclusion. So there are just reverse findings. Insulin-dependent diabetes mellitus is a multifactorial autoimmune disease, and its pathogenesis is till date not very clear. The role of autoantibodies is currently not clear. In one study, I was not showing, in one study it was said that because a lot of antibodies were present of beta-1 casein in the milk, in the circulation after consumption of the milk, so it is responsible for IDDM, but they say that the role of autoantibodies is not clear till date. Diabetogenic of beta-casein A1, A2, and B have been evaluated in animal studies which presented contradictory results. Their results were totally contradictory. Maybe that A2 was more diabetogenic than A1 or B were more diabetogenic than A1. This was the story, friends, of A1. So I conclude that more complicated research data is available in the literature. On one hand, A1 was found, when I say milk A1 protein or A1 animal, it's all same, beta-1 casein like this one, A1 same. On one hand, A1 milk, A1 beta-casein protein was found to having ill effect on the health. On the other hand, it was totally nullifying all the ill effects, that there is no bad effects. Now coming to the A2 milk, as I said in the beginning that this is our perception that A2 is good, A1 is bad. So A1 part we have seen. Now coming to the A2 part, which is good for the health, which is said to be good for health, which we perceive as a good for health. It is absolutely correct, friends, that till date there is no information on the negative effect of A2 milk on human health. So one thing is good, that no research, no report that A2 is bad for human health. Recently, some human studies have been demonstrated to show the positive effects, but see the story of that one. Death et al. In 2016, he is the scientist of Australia and New Zealand. The whole group was the New Zealand and Australia. Clinical evaluation of glutathione concentration after consumption of milk containing different type of beta-casein, and it was published in Nutrition Journal. We know, as a pharmacologist, we know that if in body glutathione concentration is increased, then certainly it will help us in the removing all the toxicants, and there will be a positive impact on the health. They demonstrated that consumption of A2 milk increased the plasma glutathione concentration 4-fold as compared to consumption of A1 milk or A1 and A2 milk combined, which is increasing only 2-fold, and concluded that A2 milk has the potential to promote the production of antioxidant glutathione in humans. But see the conflict of interest. They are showing the good health effect of A2, but the conflict of interest is that this study was totally sponsored and funded by A2 milk company. So people didn't believe that one, because this is funded by A2 milk company. So certainly they may talk about good about the A2 milk. Second study, Sonja Kukuljan, Keith Woodford, and two more scientists in 2014, they published comparative effect of A1 versus A2 beta casein on gastrointestinal measures. That was a blinded, randomized crossover pilot study. It was published in European Journal of Clinical Nutrition. And they reported that consumption of A1 milk causes significant higher stool consistency and abdominal pain. So main was that if you consume A1 milk, then there will be abdominal pain. There was significantly positive association with abdominal pain and consistency of the consumption of A1 milk. As you increase the consumption of A1 milk, the abdominal pain was increased. However, A2 milk consumption did not show any such effects. But they did not conclude anything. But again, the conflict of interest is that many subjects were already having milk intolerance. One, and second major conflict of interest was that Dr. Sonja Kukuljan is a salaried employee of A2 Dairy Products Company of Australia, and Professor Keith Woodford is consultant of A2 Corporation. So, there was a conflict of interest. Third study, they reported that A2 milk enhances the dynamic muscle fraction as compared to A1 milk. Again, there was the same conflict of interest, that it was sponsored by A2 milk company and the employee might be employee of A2 company. But one thing is clear, that there is no report that A2 milk is having any ill effect. So we found three things. First, A1 milk was having all ill effects. Second, all contradictory reports that no ill effect of A1 milk has been reported. A1 is as good as A2. Third, A2 has not been reported to show any adverse effects, but what positive effects on health of A2 is shown, that was having all conflict of interest, and that was not accepted like this. Now, another story comes that it is not only BCM7 and BCM9, but many other BCM and bioactive peptides are also derived from beta casein. So what is the role of those BCM5, BCM11, BCM, what are they? And they are having the same action. For example, if we see BCM5, which is a fragment of 60 to 64 amino acids, it is only 5 amino acids. They are also acting as a opioid agonist. BCM11 from 60 to 70, it is also acting as opioid agonist. Immunopeptides also acting as opioid agonist. So can we prove that all BCM, BCM5, BCM11 immunopeptides are occupying the mu opioid receptor and showing the same symptoms, showing the same pharmacological effects? So it is not only BCM7 and BCM9, many BCMs, many beta-casomorphin and peptides were isolated. Their pharmacological role has not been. So this is the different BCM which was released in various dairy products. Now you can see it is a milk or cheese or formula, infant formula or human colostrum or mature milk or high protein supplement or bovine beta casein. These are the different fraction of BCM7, BCM9, BCM5, BCM11 which are secreted or which are formed from the beta casein. So this was the different that it is not only BCM7 and BCM9, some other beta casomorphin is also formed. What is the role of those BCMs? Now another important point. Generation of beta casomorphin 7, which we thought that it is released only from A1 protein, is not from only A1 protein, and it has been confirmed by using human gastrointestinal juice by scientists of Denmark and Norway. They said that it is not only A1 beta casein which produces casomorphin 7. They have published the paper in International Dairy Journal, and this 4th point is more important. I have taken that beta casein is first hydrolyzed in gastric juice and then in duodenal juice. Release of beta casomorphin 7 is not solely dependent on presence of histidine at 67 in beta casein variant. So we were saying that it is a mutation, and at the place of proline histidine comes, and that's why beta casein is producing BCM7. But now it is proved that BCM7 production is not dependent on histidine at position number 7. They have identified BCM7 from A1 as well as A2 variants both. Concentration they have given that BCM7 from A1 beta casein was 4 milligram per gram of casein, while A2 beta casein produces 1.5 milligram per gram of the casein. So what I want to say that number one, it is not only BCM7 and BCM9 which is produced from beta casein. There are BCM5, BCM11, again many immunomodulatory bioactive peptides. And second, BCM7 is not produced only from beta casein A1, it is also produced from beta casein A2, maybe in smaller quantity, not as high quantity as in beta A1 casein. This was the story. Now, but either it is a BCM7 or BCM9, friends, there are good pharmacological advantages of both of the bioactive peptides, both of the casomorphins. This is a very recent study. BCM9 is a very strong antihypertensive property. It is having a very strong antihypertensive property. BCM7, another point I would like that in BCM9, BCM9 has been reported a very good analgesic also. BCM7, if you see, BCM7 is an antagonist of 5S2 receptor that we call as serotonin for non-pharmacologist people in receptors, and found to block serotonin-induced platelets aggregation. So it is a good. Inhibition of epithelial mesenchymal transdifferentiation during hyperglycemia in this cell. This is the established mammalian cell line. We found that BCM7 prevents the fibrosis of chronic renal failure. Then BCM7 shows to enhance CCK8 secretion in cell lines of STC, thus increases the satiety value. So if you want to reduce the, that's why it is said that milk can reduce the body weight, because BCM7 it increases the satiety value. BCM7 could play a protective role in preventing high glucose induced oxidative stress in both in vivo and in vitro model. BCM7 is again demonstrated to decrease oxidative stress in pancreas in diabetic mice by this mechanism. So what I want to convey, friends, that BCM7, although brand as a bad bioactive peptides for health, it is having very good, some very good pharmacological potential on the health. So this was the story of A1 and A2. Now coming to that, how this A1 and A2 story changed the global dairy business. How it changed the global dairy business. When the story came, bad, good effects of A1, A2 and all these things, and this is the biggest change in the global dairy business. In 2000, New Zealand company A2 Corporation was established for genetic testing and sale of the and market of the A2 milk. They have established a company. In 2003, A2 Corporation sent petition. Now you read it properly. In 2003, A2 Corporation sent petition to Food Standard Regulatory Authority in New Zealand and Australia to print a health warning on package of the ordinary milk, which is not packed as A2 milk. However, A2 Corporation was asked to remove the claim of good effect of the A2. In 2003, A2 dairy marketers took patent right to market A2 milk in Australia. In 2004, A2 Corporation started marketing A2 milk in USA. In 2004 again, now see, A2 Corporation and A2 dairy marketers were fined by the government of Australia for making misleading claims on A2 milk. In 2009, New Zealand Food Safety Authority commissioned a study by European Food Safety Authority reported that risk assessment of A1 A2 milk means they recommended that A1 A2 milk is good. It is not to be recommended that A1 is bad and A2 is good. And in 2013, now A2 Corporation has started selling the A2 milk in UK and China. So A1 and A2 story changed the global dairy market. Why India should worry for A1 and A2 milk? 4-5 slides I have more. Why we are worried about A1 A2 milk? You know, we brought white revolution, which became a synonym of the crossbreeding. Operation Flood started in 1970, and that was the anything else but only crossbreeding of indigenous cow with European breeds. and that leads to enhancement in milk production in totality and per capita milk availability. And during this crossbreeding programs, there might be integration or A1 genotype has been introgressed in the crossbred cattle. A1 milk in India may be increasing with increased crossbreeding program. As I said, that crossbreeding program has increased to 26%. So we feel that A1 milk must have increased in our 188 million ton of the milk, 26% at least. If the global epidemiological data and some experimental results are to be believed, then certainly this is a cause of concern for India, because we are having crossbreeding programs, and if we believe the epidemiology, then there is a cause of concern. And more recently, when we launched our very impressive programs, our dream, that Rashtriya Gokul Mission, which is launched by Government of India, Ministry of Agriculture, where we say that our most of the indigenous breeds are having A2 allele of beta casein as compared to exotic cattle, which is having more frequency of A1 type of allele. Reportedly, A1 milk is possibly associated with some metabolic disorder. So we should promote our A2 milk. That is a very good point, and we will stick with that. We will go with the multiplication, upgradation of our indigenous breed, which is having the A2 milk. Indian consumers are also affected. So how A1, A2 milk publicity is changing the Indian consumers and dairy farmers. Some consumers are panicky and they can afford to buy A2 milk, what they say as a healthy milk, with the cost of 150 to 200 rupees per kg, as compared to the normal cost of milk 40 to 50 rupees per liter. Farmers owing the crossbred, they are more panicky. They are disturbed about their future livelihood. Even many farmers have started procuring the indigenous cattle on the cost of crossbred, but they are not happy with their milk yield and they are not happy with their income. And if we replace each and every crossbred with the native cow, then there is a reduction of around 1200 to 1500 kg per year per animal. And it is not possible to replace the 30 million of the crossbred cow. If we replace all 30 million of the crossbred cow, then there will be dip in milk production to the tune of 35 to 38 million ton. So this is consumers change, perception of the consumers of Indian. But truthful course of the action, we have to reply. What are the questions for truthful course of the action? There are 5 questions. Should the hypothesis of association of A1 milk with few chronic disease drawn mostly from a survey in Western country be extrapolated in India? How India will take care the public opinion and sentiments related to A1 and A2 milk? Should we not generate sufficient experimental data on health attributes? Can we separate 2 types of consumer, A1 milk consumers, A2 milk consumers, and create a public unrest? Already so much partition of in our population, so unnecessarily create the public unrest. Is there is a need, urgent need to discourage the crossbreeding programs with exotic breeds? If we do so, how we will meet the projected demand of the milk in future? Should India exclusively focus on the future, in the future, for upgrading our indigenous breeds for A2 types? Should the breeding policy should be oriented to the, or should be A2 milk centric? So all these questions we have to reply depending upon the data which we have discussed earlier. Indian scenario of research, 3 slides. Indian scenario of research in A1, A2. You know that our National Bureau of Animal Genetic Research and National Dairy Research Institute, we had a very important projects under NASF on A1, A2 genotypes, and some reports have confirmed that A2 gene frequency in Indian breeds of cattle is around 98% and around 100% of the major milch breeds. So need not to bother about the Indian breeds. India has a sizable population of the Indian milch animal, which are highly homogeneous in terms of A2 beta casein variants, and this has attracted a lot of attention worldwide. Now people are talking about the Indian population of the cattle because they are having, A2, they are homogeneous of the A2. All the buffalo breeds have been found to have A2 genotype, so there is no fear. There will be A2 milk only. Next point, Holstein Friesian, Jersey and crossbred bulls used in AI program also have predominantly carrying A2 allele. In crossbred cow population, predominant gene is A2 allele. So what I want to convey that in addition to our indigenous cattle, buffalo, sheep, goat, camel, all A2 type. Our all crossbred are also predominantly A2 type, so there is need not to any panicking. If we come to the details, then in a comprehensive study, large number of animals representing Indian native cattle, exotic cattle, crossbred animal, and their blood, their semen, their genotype to understand the distribution of A1, A2 variants. First point, Indian native cattle breeds, which contributes around 21% of the milk, they are pool of the A2 milk. All buffalo contributing 49% of the milk, they A2 milk. The frequency of homozygous A1 genotype in taurine, crossbred and breeding bull is less than 0.1%. This point should be noted that A1 homozygous genotype is less than 0.1%. Indian native crossbreeds and crossbred animal mainly have A2 type haplotype. The frequency of A1 allele in taurine, crossbred and breeding bulls is contributed by heterozygous genotype A1A2, not by homozygous A1A1. A1 allele can be checked by checking the semen being used. This is the recent study, and I thanks my colleague Dr. Monica Sodi, who shared just yesterday night this data, that gene frequencing, A1, A2 means gene frequencing, and A1, A1, A2, A2 means genotype frequencing. If you see in our milch animal, dual animal, draught animal, and overall, then you can see that in milch animal, A1 gene frequency is 0. 100% it is A2 milk, A2 gene frequency. In dual, in draught, in overall, little bit. Similarly, if we see the A2 in milch animal, then it is 100% genotype frequency. So what I want to convey that in our study in NBAGR, milch animal of India are having 100% A2 gene frequency and A2 genotypic frequency. So this is the complete story of the A1, A2 milk, friends, based on the scientific data. So now come that what we should do if there is a, before I come to my conclusion, this is the last slides, that how we can harness the full potential, pharmacological potential of A1 and A2 milk. There is a perception that A1 is bad and A2 is good. If we don't see that A1 is bad, but then we should exploit the full pharmacological potential of the A2 milk. So how we can go ahead? First point, let us say that milk is the best food, full of many nutraceuticals and pharmacologically active molecules with health attributes. That I have shown that what it is having. Then let us create the awareness about the facts and science of A1 and A2 milk on human health based on the scientific data. So let us not create a panicky that yes, it is reported like this, it is said like this, people are buying A2 milk of 100 rupees, 200 rupees, 400 rupees because they can afford, so A1 is bad. Like, so let us not create a panicky, let us create awareness. And next point, let us promote our buffalo milk, sheep milk, goat milk, which is totally A2. So buffalo milk is let us promote as a healthy milk because it is high in protein, high in calcium, low in cholesterol, low in fat, and it is A2. It can attract the international attraction for the business in the dairy sector. Let us harness the full potential of our non-bovine milk, sheep, goat, camel, donkey. Recently, we organized at National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, Dr. A.K. Singh is here, I was convener. We organized the therapeutic potential of non-bovine milk, that is the sheep, goat, camel, donkey, and minor milk producing bovine, that is the Mithun and York, and it attracted very good attention of the many people, and let us exploit its full potential because they all are A2. If we really wants to help the A2 milk producer, then at least let us recommend that milk of indigenous cow, let us mix in the baby feed or in the infant powder. So in addition to the concept of A2 milk, it will also help us in upgradation of the breeding of indigenous cattle breeds. That is our plan, Government of India plan under our scheme. And then finally, let us screen the crossbred bull being used for semen collection to encourage use of only A2 type. As I said that it is A1, it is only less than 0.1%, but let us go for the screening. Finally, I want to conclude these 5, 6, 7 points, friends, with our study, that how it will be, this A101 story. First one is that there is not sufficient data. Let us listen, let us very carefully, with full conscious scientific. There is not sufficient data, scientific based data, to say that A1 milk is bad for human health and A2 milk is good for human health. It requires further validation. Second point, if we believe that A1 is bad and A2 is good, then at least in India, it should not create a panic. It should not be a concern, because our all milk from indigenous cow, buffalo, is A2 milk. 26% of the milk which is coming from the crossbred is also A2 dominant milk. As I said, that in our breeding bull, A1 genotype is less than 0.1%. Third, let us not create the panic. Let us not divide the society that this is the A2 milk consumer and A1 milk consumer. As far as breeding policy is concerned, fourth point says that yes, on priority, we will take the breeding of our indigenous animal for upgradation, for improvement. That will be our priority. Our 50 breeds, Sahiwal, Tharparkar, Gir, Kankaraj, Malnad Gidda, Devni, all good breeds, we will improve, we will upgrade, we will increase the number for our future, because it's not only A1 and A2, they are having more nutritional, physiological, pharmacological advantages, as they are having better feed conversion efficiency, they are having more tolerant to the climate change, they are adopted in the heart, so we will improve. But next recommendation, the crossbreeding program should continue. But the crossbreeding program, we will not involve our 50 recognized indigenous breed. We will take nondescript, low-producing, non-producing animal to improve their milk producing capacity. And in that way, we will enhance the A2 milk also, and we will improve our nondescript cattle also. So breeding policy will go in this way. Otherwise, if we stop the crossbreeding program, friends, certainly there will be dip in the total milk production and we will not meet the projected demand. So again, I repeat that I don't know that I cleared that myth and gave you fact, or I made you more confused, but in one sentence, as a scientist, still we have to generate lot of scientific data to say that this fraction is good, this fraction is bad. Till date, we are not having such scientific data. Thank you very much for patient hearing. My sincere thanks, my acknowledgement, a big acknowledgement to Dr. A.M. Thakur and Dr. Bhava sir and his whole ISPPT team for providing me this opportunity. I'm thankful to my team member, very enthusiastic, very good team member, Dr. Monica Sodhi, Dr. A.K. Mohanty, Dr. P.K. Singh, Dr. Kumaresan, Dr. Narayan Hegde from BIAF. We are, I'm thankful especially for a lot of discussion during our brainstorming session. Then I'm thankful to my PA, Mr. Chitesh Kaushik, who prepared a very, you must have seen very good slides, PPT presentation that is prepared by Chitesh Kaushik. I would like to show your face, Chitesh. Okay, thank you very much. And I back to Dr. A.M. Thakur. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you very much. All the participants, you have enjoyed the very informative and useful information about the A1, A2 milk and the hype is there. Now, we have received a lot of questions, and again, Dr. A.K. Srivastava sir has spoken for nearly 55 minutes. So, he is very much exhausted, but at least 6 to 7 questions will be asked by selected questions will be put up by Dr. Srinivasan, and he will ask, and Dr. A.K. Srivastava sir will reply the pertinent answers. Still, if any question is there, then you can ask directly on his email ID that is mentioned in the chat box, and as per the convenience, he will reply to the question raised. Thank you very much, sir. Sir, ISUPT, your own society is indebted to you for very, very informative and nice talk. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Dr. Srinivasan, sir.
Yes, sir.
Please. Yeah.
Yeah. Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are audible. Yeah, please.
Okay, so there are many questions. So I'm asking few questions now. First one is there any correlation between beta casein and gut microbiome in humans, as consistent consumption may alter the gut microbiome?
Yeah, absolutely. You are absolutely correct that consumption of milk can alter the microbiome, but there is no such study. Only two study I found, that it is the pain, abdominal pain and stool consistency. That's all. Otherwise, there is no work on the human gut microbiome after consumption of any of the fraction of the beta casein.
Okay. Why the A2 frequency is high in certain part of the world? Are people selecting by genotyping, or any natural factors are leading to this high frequency?
No, I think any geneticist and breeder can reply in a better way. But what knowledge I have, that it is a natural mutation. So there is no selective mutation. As I said, that 8,000 year before mutation started, first it was in the Holstein, and then it came in the different breeds of the taurine, because it was used for the improvement of the breeding. But how it is, A2 is more in X country and A1 is more in Y country, it is the totally natural mutation. In my opinion, it is totally natural mutation. It is not, selection mutation, selective mutation.
Okay. So what could be the source for low frequency of A1 allele in Indian zebu cattle? Should I repeat? What could be the source for low frequency of A1 allele in Indian zebu cattle?
Source.
Source.
So, means
low frequency. Source for low frequency.
there cannot be source for low frequency. As I said, that initially all animals were only A2.
Okay.
So in Indian breeds, in milch animal, what we saw, that it is only A2, but in draught animal and in dual purpose animal, there are some A1 gene, but source, means, I don't know, I have to see that, I have to consult some breeder, that why in dual purpose animal or in draught animal, there are some A1 gene. I will consult and I will reply it.
Okay, sir.
He means he wants to know that how this A1 gene came in our indigenous
Yes.
drought, and I will consult and I will reply.
Okay, sir. Is intake of A2 milk reported for the prevention of infections like malaria, Kala Azar, TB, and can it also be helpful in prevention of COVID-19?
No, it means it cannot be said. We have not come across to this report, or we have never worked on this one. But yes, one thing I will say, that it may not be acting as a anti-malaria, antiviral, or anti-COVID like this. But in milk, there are bioactive peptides which are antibacterial, which are antiviral. Number one. Number two, probiotic be administered along with milk, its efficiency is several thousand-fold higher than other. So that is the two things, that yes, there are bioactive peptides which act as antibacterial, antimicrobial, antiviral. And second, it is a good source of administration of the probiotic. Dairy food, fermented dairy food is considered the best food matrix for probiotic administration. And when in our GIT there will be more healthy bacteria, more probiotic, then it will replace the pathogens. And maybe all bacteria and pathogens are replaced. So indirectly you can see, otherwise there is no research, there is nothing like this, that it will act as antiviral and antibacterial.
Okay, sir. So is it possible to identify A1, A2 phenotype of an animal at birth through molecular techniques?
Oh yes, there are NDRI and BAGR have technology to identify the A1, A2 animal as well as A1, A2 milk. Both can be identified. There are technology.
One participant has asked, I want to know how BCM 7 and 9 are being generated.
BCM 7 and BCM
9. 9.
Are generated. Means that way, that I showed in the slides, that there is a there is a big amino acids chain. Beta casein is a 209 amino acid chain, and out of this 209 amino acid chain, the cleavage of 7 amino acids generates the BCM7, and cleavage of 9 amino acids generate BCM9. So from A2, BCM9 is generated, and from A1, BCM7 is generated, because there is a mutation at 7th position at the place of proline. There is a histidine. So this is a cleavage by aminopeptidase enzymes.
Okay. There's a kind of a big question. I'll just read out, sir.
Yeah,
even if we forget A1 and A2 because it's put in a confusing and controversial mode, why not value other reasons that favor to attend to the Indian cattle breeds, like improving biodiversity and environment, higher nutraceuticals, antioxidants, better fat, etc., and natural adaptation of the indigenous breeds, less of veterinary medicines, easy management by the rural masses, and local livelihood as well as local nutrition? Why not?
Absolutely correct. Absolutely, this is not a question. That is a good suggestion. And I also said, means that let us forget. If you forget A1, A2 story, I will be the happiest. That will be one thing. Leaving the A1, A2 story, let us concentrate on 2 issues. That yes, milk itself is the best nutraceuticals, having all good point, good protein, good fat, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, short chain fatty acid, butyric acid, carotenoids, all good points, bioactive peptides. Milk as such, it is a good. And number 2, I said in the last that yes, our first priority is that we will upgrade, we will improve, we will increase our indigenous breeds, because it is not only milk. Means feed conversion efficiency. Dr. Sharma is sitting here. Feed conversion efficiency much better than our crossbred. Adoption to the climate change, adoption to the hot climate, because it is several thousand years they have adopted. So we have to go aside with the A1, A2 milk. Our priority is to improve, upgrade, and enhance the indigenous cattle breeds. Absolutely.
Okay, sir. There are a lot of questions coming up. I'll ask one last question. Maybe others can post the question to sir by
yes, I will request that my mail is there. Kindly post the questions. That will help me also. If there will be some queries which I will also look in the literature. For this lecture, means I have worked very hard to prepare this lecture, because claiming at this stage, at this forum, that what is the status, it requires a lot of work. So I have worked very hard. But if somebody is putting some different question, certainly I will see its reply in a different way. Please ask the question.
Yeah. Is there any correlation between A2 milk with human immunity? Also, as you have mentioned, A1 milk consumer are prone to Alzheimer's disease. Hence, is there any correlation between A2 milk intake and mental health?
No such report has been shown, but yes, forget about A1 and A2. For A2 specifically, no such report is there. But yes, milk is a house of the bioactive peptides, and there are peptides from the milk which enhances the immunity of the human being. There are peptides. Immune enhancer peptides have been isolated from the milk. It is neither from A1 or not from A2. It is from milk. I am talking about the milk. It has been isolated. Maybe from, means what story of A1, A2 I said, controversy or complication, it is only from casein, which is means 26 or 23%. More protein are whey protein, and whey protein are having much larger number of bioactive peptides and having good pharmacological attributes. So it was a story of the casein. Whey protein I did not touch. Whey protein is more important than casein in terms of generation of bioactive peptides. So there are bioactive peptides from milk which enhances the immunity human being.
Thank you, Dr. Srinivasan.
Yes, sir.
At last, I would like to propose vote of thanks from the Indian Society of Veterinary Pharmacology and Toxicology. We are highly thankful to Dr. A.K. Srivastava for his elaborating talk and the discussion. Thank you very much, sir. We are also thankful to Dr. R.C. Agrawal, DD Education ICR, who remained present during the whole say webinar, and he has taken active participation. Thank you, sir. I am also thankful to Dr. A.K. Singh, Dr. Vishnu Sharma, VC Rajuwas, Dr. Kelawala, VC Kamdenu University. I am also thankful to the deans, directors of the various deans of the various colleges, directors of the various say institutes, senior faculty members, scientists, and I am also thankful to the our friends from the industry, Arun Patil and many other industry people from other industries, those who have remained present in the 2 days webinar. And I am also thankful to all the faculty members of the various say colleges and institutes. And at last, I am also thankful to the our future scientists, postgraduate students, those who have participated in large number in this webinar. And the society is indebted to the current president of the society, Dr. A.M. Thakur, and who has given us a free hand to work for these webinars, and we are very much thankful to him. We are also thankful to all the executive committee members, especially Dr. Sriram, Dr. Gopa Kumar, and other senior members, as well as all other members, for their cooperation. And I am also thankful to the all life members of the society, and especially our young team, Dr. Srinivasan and Dr. Ratnadeep, who have completely managed the webinar in a nice way that we can hear the webinar in a very good way. So at last, I am thankful to each and everyone who have participated in the seminar, and who are also going to take part in the future seminar. Next seminar will be on the 25th of the next month, and it will be on biostatistics. So within few days, we will be announcing the floating the flyer of the next webinar. Thank you everyone for your active participation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Bhav sir and Dr. Srivastav sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone. Please allow me to end the webinar. So I request all the participants to fill the feedback form. So filling the feedback form is mandatory to get the e-certificate, and we have got like very good response for the e-certificate. It is very valuable for the students as well as the for the career growth, and also for the faculty. Please fill the feedback form. It will be open only for 30 minutes. The link is provided in the chat box. So kindly do it. Thank you all, and I am ending the session.